Ohio, in this community, everyone's been so amazing. Like this whole place has been built by the community. Like there's not a single part of this that was like, yeah, that was me. Everything has been from the help of friends and family and parts of Greenville and stuff. So yes, I do have people to talk about those things with, but there's no time right now to really fine tune like, we should find a supplier for cheaper green onions. Like, there's no time for that. It's, do we even have enough dumplings to get through tonight?
Hey folks, I'm Brooks Derrick, and this is A Lawyer, His Friends, and Food. A show about local business owners, their journeys, and the thing that brings people closer together, food. On today's episode, how a chemical engineer from Ohio went from cooking for family and friends to opening the first traditional Chinese dim sum restaurant in Greenville, South Carolina, of all places, where it's now damn near impossible to get a seat. Khailing Neoh grew up in her family's Chinese American restaurants, but wanted no part of the restaurant business for herself, and her family didn't want that for her life either. But after leaving home for college, she developed an interest in cooking, entertaining, and taking care of the people she loved through food. So how did she end up in Greenville, South Carolina, start hosting pop-up dinners during the pandemic as a side hustle, and leave her corporate job to open one of the most popular new restaurants in town? Well, let's find out. Well, okay, so tell me, so you grew up in Ohio. Tell me about what Ohio was like. This is my easy way of like kind of starting this process, and we'll slowly work into like, oh, I kind of like this person or don't like this person.
Yeah,
sitting,
yeah.
You know.
If you're not from Ohio, you can only imagine what Ohio would be like. Not to leave anything to the imagination, but it is, it's fairly white. It's fairly rural in some parts. I was kind of in a more rural area.
Okay.
Midwest, they like what they like, which is their flannels and their chain restaurants, and there's nothing against that, but it was difficult for me personally and my family, I feel like, to feel fully welcomed there, because you just look different. So how is it that people accept you when you're the only Chinese person that walks into the restaurant or the only Chinese person that is in the classroom?
So I was going to ask, you the only brown folks there, I suppose?
There were other families. I went to a really large high school,
Okay.
But it's, the microaggressions and the small things that get sprinkled along the way to make you feel different. Like, oh, you must go out with the other Chinese kid. That must be, you have to go to prom together. Yes. You must.
We have the perfect date for you.
Yeah, and if you don't, no one else is going to take you because you don't look like the standard beauty that everyone else
is that the unsaid thing, or is that also the said thing?
Which part, that we're not beautiful?
Yes.
I think.
Or you won't get a date with somebody else.
Yeah, I think it's both.
Yeah.
It's really crazy that like even your friends buy into it and they do jokes, and like for my birthday once, my friends made me a shirt that said "Made in China," and so you lean into it because you want friendship, and it's kind of funny, but you don't realize that you're actually hating on yourself when you're joking.
It's funny in that little isolated moment, even to you, but like
they're chipping away at your, identity and confidence. And I think with a lot of the Asian people I've met over the years, you either lean into it and you really go full like, I'm Chinese, this is my culture, this is my food, when you're young, and you kind of like not isolate yourself, but people really make fun of you for it. Or you lean into I'm going to make fun of myself so that you can't make fun of me. Yeah, and I'm a ninja and I'm related to Jackie Chan. And
you take that kind of narrative back.
You try to own it. Yeah.
Wow.
It's just like nothing that you could say that, no one shoved me in a locker or punched me, or, it's hard to empathize when it's just, oh, people think that you are going to date the Chinese kid. That doesn't sound.
It doesn't seem like a big deal, right? It's like in that one little story, doesn't seem like, oh, it's just a joke or something. But when that thing is
every day and every month and
yeah. So back then, what did your family do for a living? Is that mom's restaurant? Was that y'all's major source of income?
Yeah, my grandparents and mom immigrated here when she was a teenager, like she was 15. So imagine not knowing any language.
What brought them? Did they go to Ohio originally first?
Yes. Mm-hmm. They had other family there.
Okay.
Yeah, and so you kind of get sponsored by family or businesses to come over, and normally it's...
I was thinking like that would be a weird thing. They're like, let's go to Ohio.
It is wild. If you were to look at a map of like where Vietnamese, Korean, Chinese populations, there's always a reason. There's always like one person or one industry that had a reason or purpose to bring a lot of people over. And so then you'll get a lot of like Filipino people in this one city. And you're like, why are they in like Norcross, Georgia? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just like you're helping each other out, and then you start to build these like communities. But
so what was that restaurant? Grandma starts the restaurant.
Grandma bikes to a chocolate factory and works like 16 hours a day, and then they save up to open a restaurant because their friends own a restaurant, so we can learn from our friends and do our own thing. My dad was an international student at a small college, and then my mom went to Kent State University, if that sounds familiar. So they both have degrees, but I feel like they didn't feel smart enough or empowered enough to do anything with those degrees. Like they didn't apply to any jobs because they thought they wouldn't get it. They have accents, their people skills it's different, you know? So they just fell into what they knew, which was restaurants.
So they come back to Grandma's restaurant?
Yeah, come back to Grandma's restaurant.
Okay.
And
what do you call your grandmother?
Oh, Popo.
Popo. Okay.
Yeah, that's mom's mom. That's how you say grandma, mom's mom.
Mom's mom.
Which I feel like I like that distinction. There's like a specific name you call like your dad's sisters.
Right.
And your mom's...
Not just aunt.
Uncle. Yeah. Which aunt? Like, I don't know. It's kind of cool.
That is neat.
Yeah. So they worked in multiple restaurant jobs. My dad worked at a call center, and he still does for insurance purposes.
Okay, wow.
So they just make a lot. They saved up a lot of money, and then opened up a couple restaurants with some other business.
What was
partners.
Grandma's restaurant when you were growing up? What would they serve?
It was a Chinese buffet.
Chinese, just the typical like American Chinese.
It's American Chinese. Thank you.
Fare. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's like, what can we sell that's going to keep the lights on?
Right.
And so that's a lot of your sweet and sour chicken,
sweet and sour chicken,
crab rangoon.
Yes.
Stuff like that.
Yes. All delicious things.
All great. And but I think also part of the reason I wanted to do this restaurant, especially, dim sum and trying to keep it authentic, is that there's a lot of people, at no fault of their own, that think Panda Express is real Chinese food, like that it's from China.
It's not? It didn't start there?
It is just more sugar.
That's right.
Yeah. And
it's the
actually
same
some
place.
of it does have like origin, and then they dumped a bunch of sugar in it and fried it. Some of it, a lot of it.
Sounds very southern of them.
And Midwest.
And Midwest.
Yeah, Ohio and Southern, basically.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was a Chinese buffet, and I like physically grew up there with my cousins, and we'd like be in the back and do stuff and homework, and so I
not
literally
cooking. You're not doing anything there. You just that's where everybody was basically living between sunup and sundown if you weren't in school, essentially, right?
That's our babysitter. Is the back kitchen where all the rice bags are stacked up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what? When your mom and dad they do multiple restaurants?
They had a couple and they failed.
Okay. Were they just down the same path of General Tso's chicken type restaurants?
The ones that failed, they tried to do a little bit more authentic.
Okay.
And so I think they just got knocked down so many times. They're like, you know what? Screw it. We're going to copy Fridays. And they opened an American restaurant.
No way.
Yeah, and that restaurant has been open for 17 years now. I'm telling you, it's a risk.
And are they still? Is mom still running that restaurant?
Yeah. Oh yeah. She's still doing like 70 hours a week there. Like they can't stop. My grandma works at my parents' restaurant like probably 45 hours a week, and she's like 85 years old.
What is that restaurant called?
It's called Canal Grill. It's in Canal Fulton, Ohio.
Canal Grill.
It's like kind of the place where people go for prom dinner. It's kind of like the nicer restaurant.
Right,
There's like steak and seafood.
Okay.
But
a little nicer than TGI Fridays.
a little bit nicer, but
and locally owned.
Yeah. But they got the potato skins and they got the like margaritas and stuff. So yeah. So when I told them I was doing this, they were like, they're not gonna buy dim sum. They're not gonna this is a risk because people don't know the food and they don't know if they'll like it and.
I'm assuming, and
when they're starting those, trying to do a little bit more authentic restaurant back then, there's not even an interest, it doesn't seem like for what is real authentic food.
Yeah, like there's no interest, but there's just, it's a hard
No
thing to
knowledge.
communicate. There's
Yeah,
no
no
knowledge.
knowledge.
Yeah. Like if I think sweet and sour chicken is Chinese food, and I go to your restaurant and you don't have
have
it,
sweet and sour
then
chicken.
how are you a Chinese restaurant?
This is not, yeah,
So I feel like
does not compute.
Does not, yeah.
Wow. So when you finish high school, where do you go from there? Where do you go to college?
I went to school at a place called Case Western Reserve
Is
University.
that up that way?
It's in Cleveland.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a private university that.
And you are chemistry major, biology, microbiology major? What was their
chemical engineering.
chemical engineering major? Okay.
Yes.
I
So.
have a master's in biomedical
Do
engineering.
you really?
Yeah, I saw this on one of the articles. I was like, oh, we have something in common.
Well,
She's an
Case
engineer.
Western was the first biomedical engineering program in
No
the
way.
country. Yeah, they're like
All right.
known for their biomed engineering program.
Okay.
Yeah.
My undergrad's in chemistry, and I went to Clemson, and I have a master's from there in biomedical engineering.
And then you went to law school,
Yes.
obviously.
So it's a normal path
Pivot.
people take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a privilege to be able to pivot, you
Yeah.
know, to say this is not it.
This is not it. Yeah.
And
I was
know it, yeah.
I was going to law school to try to be a patent lawyer, and when I got to law school, I just fell in love with it, and
That's cool.
I haven't done anything. Well, I mean, we do, the injury work. It helps to have all that kind of anatomical knowledge, right? But other than that, it's like, it's just nice to have this degree. I don't even have it on my wall. Like
You should.
Yeah, I know, right?
Street cred.
There's some neon lights around it flashing.
There is like, I mean, not to get too deep, but when you look at me and I'm 5'2" and I'm a female Asian woman, when I say that I studied chemical engineering, there's like this. Sometimes you can see it in their face too, where there's a level of respect that they just
Yes.
granted you.
Yes.
But before that, it's like you're here until you prove otherwise or something.
Right.
It's very interesting.
When that is conveyed to someone, like especially in practice of law, and they're like, or they figure it out, they're like, "What? You are you were a scientist?" Like, yeah,
Because it doesn't match, or
Doesn't
because
match.
they didn't think you could do it?
probably both.
But
I
here
don't
we
think
are.
I might not come across as the guy with the white coat on, I guess, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing is when you study these things, you either in your mind or in reality, the job kind of fits with what people think it is. Like if you were to stay in research or in academia, like you're in a closed room, you're doing this, you're doing repetitive stuff.
Yeah.
Same with chemical engineering, like you're in a factory or a plant and it's dirty and it's really thankless and
Yeah.
it's like to do that for the rest of your life. Or for me,
Right.
it was really scary to think
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. I didn't get to that point. It was more my whole life, probably up until law school or going into law school, really after law school. It was like I was kind of a blind man, just kind of like, what am I good at? And being like, oh, there's another avenue. Let's go try this. It's like I was like this. I guess that's the gift of our or my generation, of like being able to make those kind of choices along the way and not have to I was making a small living doing research at MUSC in Charleston, but I had the opportunity, the ability to change a little bit. I didn't even think it
Right.
was a change. It was just like, oh, let's try this. Let's try this. Oh, wait a minute. Here I am.
Yeah.
Like it was very, in hindsight, very lucky and happenstance to just be sitting here today.
Right.
Because I didn't have like a drive or a goal of like, I want to be an injury lawyer one day,
Yeah, and it's so crazy to look back and just even within a year, and then versus 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
But that's what I was saying earlier.
So are you so to rewind a little bit? Are you cooking at all as a kid? Are you doing any kind of like? Are you like making dumplings with grandma on the weekends? Nothing. You're just a kid having fun, eating the food that's prepared, hanging out in the back of the kitchen, maybe eating some sweet and sour chicken and liking it. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't say having fun. So as a first generation Asian American, there's constant pressure to make their sacrifice worth it. So my parents were ripped from what they knew and placed in a place where they're not only not welcome 100%, but they're also ridiculed and talked down to. So it's like, we did all of this so that you could have a better future. And so your job is to study, be a good person, go to school, and have a consistent, steady job. Like doctor, lawyer,
Yes.
engineer. And that wasn't even their concern. Their concern was, you are going to speak great English, you're going to be able to apply for jobs and get them, and you're going to be CEO of a company, or you're just going to have respect from people.
Yeah.
And so that pressure doesn't really make for a fun childhood because,
Doesn't sound like it.
yeah. And also, they wouldn't let me in the kitchen. They really didn't want me to cook because they didn't want me in restaurants. So when I started this, my parents were like, we will pay you not to open this restaurant because we don't want you to have to work like we had to work.
Right.
And so it's a whole like push and pull battle with them because all I want to do is make them proud. And I really think that doing this will make them proud, even if they don't see it.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't see it at the beginning.
Right.
But they're there now.
Yeah.
So.
So you go to college and you chemical engineering, finish school. How do you connect the dots between college and Greenville? How do you get down here?
I decided
Couple jobs?
to go. Yeah, I decided to go into engineering sales, like a technical sales role, because I'm a very like people person. I'm very extroverted. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then I realized I hated it because it's so transactional, that relationship. And because I was in engineering, it was still a very white male dominated field. So I had to hide my true personality or thoughts or just buy into it to get the job done, to get the sale done or whatever. Right. And then my husband now, at the time boyfriend, he got a job in Greenville. He's also a chemical engineer.
Okay.
So I moved from Chicago to be with him here, and then the pandemic started.
So you moved here early 2020 or late 2019?
Late 2019.
Wow.
Yeah, and talk about introspection, right? Like so many people
Where's
changed.
husband from originally?
New Jersey.
New Jersey. So he's in Chicago working for a plant or a company that you come to work for?
We were both on work training rotations, and we met in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, and the joke is that he was the only Asian guy on the dating apps.
Oh, so it was a dating app.
It was a dating app. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
I was
but
like,
it was
I
long
feel like
enough
this story
ago.
is going to be a dating app story.
Yeah,
Just waiting for it. I'm waiting for it. Okay.
But I will say it was long enough ago that some of the dating apps that we have today didn't even exist when we were on the dating app. So I feel like we're like OGs.
Was there a chemical engineering dating app?
No, that's not yeah, like farmers only, but
Right. Chemical engineering
yeah.
only? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nerdsonly.com or something?
I would.
Or geeks only?
That was basically what I was looking for. I was looking for nerds on there.
Yes.
I was like, I know you all outdoorsy people in Chattanooga, Tennessee, but where are the nerds?
That's right.
But the joke is that I swiped right on him because he was Asian.
The only
I was
Asian
like,
in
I owe you.
the only Asian in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Yeah. So that's another like lean into it, like make fun of ourselves.
Right,
yeah.
right,
But if
right.
someone else says it,
That's right.
you stop it.
It's funny to piggyback the beginning story, right? It's like, right.
Again, not to get too deep, but it's like you have all these years, and I'm speaking for myself, but I know a lot of Asian Americans and, different people that aren't necessarily white. They have similar stories where you don't fit in for so long and all you want to do is fit in. And then there comes a point where you're like, wait, I love the things that make me the things. Yeah, and my family. And then you lean into that and you're like, man, I really need to try the food and I want to know more about the holidays. And like, I'm not saying that's everyone's story, but it was for me.
Right.
So it came like, I think in college when I was finally surrounded by other diverse people.
Because you're in college and you're getting to meet more people like you at that point in time.
Yeah,
right?
and just other people in general, like,
there's
there's like
not
a
just
lot
like
more
you, but
like
across,
Latino or Latinx and Black and Asian and, I'm
nice white people.
Nice white people, yeah. Or white people that have grown up around other non-white people.
Yeah.
So they're not like weird, they're not like, oh.
Can I touch your hair?
Yeah, stupid silly, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought, but.
So you meet your husband in Chattanooga. where are you living at that? Are y'all both living in the same town?
We're living in the same town.
So you both live in Chicago.
No, we're on work training. So like I was in Chattanooga for 4 months, and I lived in Columbus for a few months, and I was in North Carolina. It was like that, and his was the same. Like he did Baton Rouge and Houston. So we just crossed in Chattanooga for 2 weeks or something, and we met.
You turned on the dating app, updated location services. Yeah. They're laughing at me over there. They're laughing at me over there like, we do that every weekend. Huh?
Modern love.
That's right, modern love, that's right.
Yeah, and then I moved, after that 2 weeks, I was moving to Chicago.
Right.
And he was staying, and then he got placed in Greenville. What's funny is the options were Greenville, Detroit, or Baton Rouge for him. And I'm really lucky that it was Greenville. I don't know. Maybe Baton Rouge would be cool too. Maybe Detroit would be cool too. But we're in Greenville, so then a year goes by, and then I moved to Greenville. Pandemic starts, and we're living together. So we're
when the
really...
pandemic happens, at that moment in time, have you done, I guess, your kind of self-reflection in college about starting to like feel your roots again? Are you trying to figure out how to cook back then in college, or?
I'm cooking more because I care about food, and like campus food sucks.
Right.
And I like working out. I want to eat more, proteins and veggies.
Are you YouTubing how to make this stuff? Or are you calling grandma, or
no?
going
Actually,
home?
I had a lot of friends that taught me things that I think because grandma grew up with us in the same house, we just took it for granted, like cooking.
Right.
We didn't even ask. She didn't think we wanted to learn, so we didn't ask. And now I'm like constantly like, show me how to make this. How do you garden this? And what do you use for that? And her cooking is just like feeling it out.
She's got no book. It's just like
Yeah. So one of our dishes, our green beans that we have on the menu, is grandma's recipe. It's her sauce. I was like, Grandma, can you teach me how to make the sauce? And she was like, I'll just send you like 5 gallons. And I'm like,
no.
I was like, but what happens when we run out of 5 gallons? She's like, I'll send you more. And I said, just teach me how to make the sauce.
Yes.
And so she goes, oh, it's a little bit of this and a lot of this and some of that. And I'm like, so I'm just like mixing things until I get it to feel like it's grandma's sauce.
Wow. When I started cooking, like I asked my mom and my sister, like, okay, how do we make the macaroni and cheese, or how do you make your beans or whatever, right? And my sister's like, add these 3 things and it just smells right. You'll know the smell. And I'm like, Katie, I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah, I don't know what that thing is.
I know the smell, I think, but like, what am I? You've given me like, or like the slaw, the mayonnaise and mustard and salt and pepper and vinegar that go into the slaw. She's like, it just looks a certain way. You know the look. Like I don't. It's not really. I don't know.
Well, because you haven't looked at it every time you ate it.
Right.
You're only looking at it now, so you might as well be looking at it for the first time.
Can you tell me exactly what I'm supposed to do? Like, is it a cup? Is it a tablespoon? Like, I don't.
Yeah, help me out here.
I got no idea, right?
Yeah.
So like some of my notes in my book are her words back to me, and I'm thinking, now I've got to get on the phone with her and like, what does this go into this? Yeah.
Well, because they're not like measuring when they're doing it. They're just feeling it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's so cool. Like that's such a beautiful thing when you can like, it's almost like a language with your ingredients and your food.
Yeah. All right, so tell me what we got here.
All right, so some of my favorite items, I would say. We have our pork and Napa cabbage dumplings. Sorry, we change up the fillings every week, so there's like a new
pork and Napa cabbage dumplings, okay.
Yes, and sometimes we'll pan fry them, sometimes we'll boil or steam them, and they kind of give you different textures.
Gotcha.
On top, there is some scallions and our house dipping sauce, which is mostly soy sauce, sesame oil, garlic, and rice vinegar. There's a couple of secret things in there.
Like just some crazy stuff from this cabinet?
No, more like love and like
that's what I was thinking.
Happiness and
Smiles.
The shumai is the most popular dim sum item It just is dim sum.
Okay.
If you go to a dim sum restaurant, they don't have shumai. You can't call it dim sum.
Leave.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Like
All right.
you can't have a burger place without burgers.
Yes.
There is some fresh fish roe on top.
Okay.
Gives it that nice little pop of orange and a little bit more texture. And then we have 2 char siu bao buns.
Okay.
So it is our slow marinated, slow roasted char siu barbecue pork. So
Okay.
it's a Chinese style barbecue. It has molasses, garlic, honey, hoisin, so a lot of sweetness.
Okay.
And then a fluffy bao bun. Yeah.
All right.
I
How long
also
do these
have-
things take to make?
That's a great question. This one takes so long to make, but it's so worth it.
Lots of love here,
Lots
right?
of love. Dumplings take a little bit less time to make.
Okay.
They're awesome. They're so versatile because you can like change it up all the time in the recipes. Shumai, actually, it's an open-faced dumpling, but it takes twice as long to wrap a shumai than it does the.
I was watching them make this. It was very
tedious.
yes. Yeah, that's tedious too, but that seemed like very tedious trying
Yeah.
to get it to stand up straight and
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And, like make sure the filling and the wrapper is working for you and everything. So, yeah, I think. Oh, and also we have our house chili oil.
Okay.
If you do like it spicy,
I do.
I'm very proud of our chili oil.
Okay.
It took us a while to make that up. I think maybe we start with the buns.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're the boss, right?
So buns, we can use our hands, which is
Oh,
great.
okay, sweet. So,
Yeah.
all right.
And I tell everyone that orders them, if you pick it up, so I'll pick this one up and you can have
All right.
this one.
So I grab it with the. Don't eat the bread. I mean the
Don't
paper,
need the
right?
paper, yeah. And then I like to rip it in half
Okay.
with 2 hands. That way you can see the filling and the dough.
Whoa.
Yeah, and then
Steam.
when you take your first bite, you're not just getting dough, and you're like, this isn't. What am I eating? What
Because
is
you'd be getting the edge.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Kind of like pizza. If you eat
Yeah.
the crust first,
That's-
I don't know what you're doing.
I don't eat the crust. So
I don't eat the crust.
silly. I
Yeah.
would never do that.
Yeah, and then you can have like bites of both, and
Yes.
know what you're biting into. So. That's nice, right?
That is so beautiful. It's like very sweet, comforting.
Sweet and warm,
Yeah.
and the bao is like the fluffiness of it.
I've never had a bao that good.
Oh, thank you.
This is amazing.
Thank you very much.
I have goosebumps. That is so delicious.
Really? And then you just want to like savor every bite because it's like gonna be gone in a second, kind of thing.
So when you're making the pork that's in here, what you marinating for forever? Then are you, I guess, roasting it or braising it forever?
Well, we're marinating it for at least 12 hours. And then when we roast it, it's not that long. It's probably an hour total, but it's a lot of like temperature change, flipping, basting, flip based.
Okay. What
Bring it back
what
up.
cut of meat is that?
Pork shoulder or pork butt.
Okay.
I think for
As a South Carolina man, I know what that is.
and it's nice because it's fatty enough
Yeah.
that it keeps it tender. But in this form, you're not just like eating a pure piece of fat, you know. But then when
Even if I was, I wouldn't know it. It would be delicious fat.
but when we tell people about it, it's like you
Oh,
can.
good.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
That was fine.
It's nice to say like this is pork shoulder, this is pork butt, because then
Right.
people are like, oh, I know what that is. I'm
Yeah.
not afraid of it.
It's not foreign.
Right. I think if people try it, they'll like it. Like you might not
There's
know what
nothing
it
not to
is.
like inside of that thing. Right? I mean, like, anybody with taste buds is going to like that.
That's what the hope is, yeah.
Right?
Or that's what we've seen so far. Yeah.
If somebody doesn't like that, they need to get checked. Oh, you want to eat it again? Oh, okay.
Well, if you want it, I just
Yes.
eat them all the time.
Yes,
just
I would
like
love to.
taste testing and like
It's so good. So tell me, what's the making of the dough like? What does that process entail?
it's pretty simple.
Okay.
It's well, it's simple ingredients. It's mostly cake flour, baking powder, sugar, yeast. But tedious part is you have to roll each wrapper out. So you make the whole dough, you let it rise, you kind of roll it into a long snake, and then you cut to the size or the weight that you need, and then you have to hand roll each one in order to be able to wrap it like this.
Whoa. So you're cutting out each little one, not like when you make biscuits where you like roll out the whole thing and cut. You have to you cut out with the straight thing, boom, measure, then roll each little. Whoa.
Yeah, because
that's love.
when you're rolling it, the center needs to be thicker than the outer.
Okay.
Because if it's just too thin, the bottom will rip, or the filling will kind of rip.
You're taking that and pulling. You're putting the meat in there and coming over top.
And then the edges need to be thinner, because when you're pleating it or when you're at the top, if it's too thick, you'll just have so much dough at the top.
Yes.
That'll actually like sink into the bow. It's
a lot.
an art. Yeah,
it is an art.
A lot.
Yeah.
And I think people might be a little sticker shocked when they see the price.
Yeah.
But if you look at the hours that goes into that compared to, like, I don't know, some frozen ones.
Yes. That is dynamite.
Thank you.
Dynamite. What are we doing next?
Let's do the pork and Napa cabbage dumplings.
Okay.
And if you'd like,
should I do the spicy stuff on there?
Yeah, you could try one without, and then
Yes,
one
that's what I'll
with,
do.
maybe.
I'll go.
Yeah. I did end up pan frying these, so they're a little bit more savory than.
And you just pan fried these for me, huh?
Yeah.
I feel very special, right?
Cheers.
Cheers.
I think the filling needs to be saltier, but it's good.
I don't know. That's pretty good.
No? Thank you.
When I first started cooking, I made like a corn chowder or something for my wife. And it was the saltiest shit I've ever put in my mouth. And so ever since then, I'm like afraid of salt. And so like almost everything that I put on the table for my wife, she's like, I think we need a little more salt. I'm like, yeah, I'm just scared.
You scarred me the first time.
Yeah. I think I used like the blue like lady with the salt pouring out, like that old school salt. I'm pretty sure I used Norton's, whatever. I'm pretty sure I used that and just was probably salt baying it. Probably had too much wine or something. Knowing myself.
Yeah. I'm also afraid of salt. So anytime I'm like, oh, this is good, I need to add a little bit more salt. I think for the average person.
We were in Asheville this past weekend, and we ate at a place called Karate. It's a fantastic place. What I love about the place is that their kitchen is open, so it's kind of like you're kind of like sitting at like Waffle House almost. You can see all the people doing the stuff, right? And they make this like just like a mushroom thing that's got sherry in it. It's a very simple thyme at the end. It's beautiful and wonderful, and you're watching him make it, and the dude he literally like takes his whole hand into the salt, and you can see it like trailing across, and he boom like throws it out, and then he's like throwing it right back in the thing, and I'm like, there's no way in hell I could ever get that much salt out of my hand at home. I would be like so nervous, but then when you eat it, you're like, this is divine.
Like the confidence and the
and
it's probably so beautiful seeing the salt move like that too.
Oh yeah. And he's just like done it 100 times. The flame is catching, and it's cooking the sherry off, and it's just, I could sit there and watch this stuff all day long.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I kind of wish we had an open kitchen. Oh, chili oil?
Yes.
Maybe
this is phenomenal as well. Oh my goodness gracious.
Thank you. Maybe the next restaurant we'll have an open kitchen.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is also like, we're not hiding. Oh, it's hot, but great. This has just turned into hot ones.
I guess so.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah. I gotta really taste it, right? All right, let's see here. Am I gonna die?
Maybe not die. It depends if this is the batch that I made or if someone else made it, or one of my staff, because it can
not too hot. Oops, sorry. It's hot.
Yeah. I was like, is it?
Yeah.
Is it not hot?
It's not too bad though. It's not terrible.
Okay, good.
It's not gonna kill me.
Yeah. I don't want to say we dumbed it down or like
Now
neutralized it.
It would have helped to watch her.
To put it on the plate
Yeah,
and
it would have
dip
helped to
into
be
it.
like, oh, that's how much I need to use. It's actually taking my breath away right now.
That was awesome though.
Thank
Just
you.
seeing you put the whole...
Thank you.
I was like, I'm not gonna stop.
I'll be here all week.
You can have that one too to
Oh.
kind of neutralize.
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay.
It's actually not bad.
Oh, good.
And it's not killing.
I can't.
As I say, it's not. As I say,
can't
it's
tell
not
what's
killing me. It's
true.
like it's not that. It's not bad.
It's flavorful. It's not just like hot.
Right.
But the goal was to get
Somehow
something
it is
roasted.
not that hot, but it is also taking my breath away.
nice.
I don't know.
I'll quote you on that.
Thank you.
That's how,
Thank you.
because we want to jar it
Actually,
and
that-
sell it.
Yeah, that sounds like yeah.
So we are still training. I think I would take this one if I were you.
Okay. How
And
do you?
this is a shrimp and pork dumpling.
When you're evaluating this for the kitchen, what's your pros and cons of each one here?
It's symmetry.
Okay.
And this batch needed more of a binding agent, like it needed more cornstarch because the filling wasn't adhering as much as it should. So when I'm steaming it, I can see it kind of like slumping or coming apart.
Yes.
And that's when I know, like if I hold this one, the
gonna
filling
mush on
kind of
you?
like the filling kind of spreads apart a little bit. I think these two are going to be better. But this is at no fault of my team's. It's just a matter of
That one
Yeah,
does hold up
testing
a lot a lot better than that one. Do I put salt hot on this too, or just eat it?
you can
I'll
do
try it
dipping
first.
sauce. Yeah, you could do.
I'll try it
hot
first with
sauce,
nothing
yeah.
first.
I'm gonna do.
That's magnificent.
Thank you.
I like the fish eggs on top. It's a nice,
There's that extra like
yeah.
salty briny
Yep.
almost.
I used to not like those things for some odd
The
reason.
little fish eggs?
Yeah, I think they scared me. Like I think I might have like maybe tasted a fishy batch at some point in time. So every time I see them or used to, I'd be like, I don't know if I want those things. But then no longer.
Yeah, they're my favorite. What I'll do is I'll get a big side of it when I get sushi, and I'll dip all my sushi into it, so I can get like a little.
Ooh.
I just want to let everyone know that this is spicy. Like it's hot, and like you put a whole like half teaspoon on it.
Maybe that's why it's
That's
taking my breath.
impressive.
It's not. My mouth is not killing.
It's not like painful, but
No.
it's definitely hot.
Yeah, definitely.
Like it
not.
lingers a little bit.
I should have watched someone else eat it.
That's why it was so impressive.
Yeah, it's good. I'm an impressive eater.
Yeah. No, that's why I was impressed that you were able to handle all that.
Yeah, come here, buddy. This is so good.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We just need to make more.
Yeah. I mean, how long, like that, making that, I mean, we watched it a little bit. That's just so many hours of time go into making that big, and you're having to do all that stuff, I guess. All this stuff has to be ready before service starts, correct? Like before the doors open, you've got to have
Yep.
you got to have like a stream of shit ready to roll,
Yeah,
right?
like our inventory. And all of this is basically made and then frozen fresh.
Okay.
So that when we steam it or fry it, we just take it straight from the freezer and we know it's fresh.
Okay. And so
But
the
the
prep
prep is heavy.
prep is
yeah.
heavy, but I guess the make or like like getting across the finish line is a simpler process in here.
Definitely, because we don't have to assemble really anything.
Right.
We maybe do some better plating, or not better, but we do more plating.
I'm blown away. I can't wait to come back. My wife is gonna love this.
Thank you. Our veggie dumplings are pretty good too. We try to have like vegan, vegetarian, and gluten-free, like enough items that could make up a whole meal.
I want to eat this one. You want this one too?
No, I do not want that. Thank you. I've eaten far too many of these. It's really nice watching other people enjoy it also.
It's so good.
So, thank you. I tried to make extras for everyone here, but we had some malfunctions in the back. Some spilt sauce, some burnt ends, so.
All right. Let's see if we can. This is the hard part of doing this because now I probably have like fish eggs or something in my
Oh,
teeth.
you're good.
where we left off, you moved here from
pandemic.
Chicago. Pandemic hits. What is your, tell me about that kind of period of time. Are you engaged at that point in time? Are you married?
No, we are dating. We moved
Okay.
in together. We bought a townhome together. And then pandemic started. And that, I mean, as you probably know and everyone else knows, like really tests a person and their relationship.
Yeah.
So we ended up being like, this is right. This is good.
Perfect.
Let's do this. Yeah. And then my job, we were grounded. I was stay at home working.
Right.
Really meaningless, really dragging my feet. And I'm just such I'm a proactive person. Like I always need to be creating something or building something, and having that time period where it was stunted was really affecting my mental health.
Okay.
And so it kind of like went back. What's the foundation? Like, what do I care about? And
Right.
it was people, food, and community and family. So really just people,
Right.
whether it's like you, my neighbors, my family, and kind of getting back to the roots of being in the restaurant and being able to serve you a hot meal.
Right.
And you maybe are celebrating a birthday or you're proposing next week, or it's just so many special moments happen
Yeah.
in restaurants, and it's such an intimate experience. I didn't realize how much I missed it until I really sat and thought about it.
So how did you come, like you're sitting there trying to sell chemical engineering stuff. Like how do you like come to the realization like are you cooking at home for your like
yeah, and I'm always
boyfriend?
at this point I'm
Cooking a lot.
Yeah.
Are you cooking this kind of food at home or just cooking?
This kind of food you don't cook at home. It would be insane.
Okay.
Like I'm trying to think of what you don't do at home, like American food wise. Like I mean, even fried chicken is a process,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
breading and frying.
Yeah.
You just don't do it every night.
Right.
So this stuff, most people don't have recipes for shumai or char siu bao because you don't take
Okay.
the time to make it at home.
Okay.
But I was doing a lot of like Chinese cooking. I was doing like all different types of like Ethiopian and
Yeah. Okay.
experimenting, and I love cooking and serving people.
Right.
So because I couldn't have my sister, we couldn't have friends over, we couldn't have friends visit, it was like I was missing that piece of
Yep.
that service.
Okay.
So
you start thinking, I'm gonna start doing these pop-ups. Like, how does that? Where does that? Where do you go? How do you go from? It seems like I'm a chemical engineer. I'm trapped in the pandemic with the man I love. How do you go? Like, you know what? I'm gonna start making dim sum at a pop-up.
You have people who believe in you. So when
Okay.
I start verbalizing these things, and my very good friend from college who invests in businesses, they said, I believe in you, I believe in this concept. And it was right time, right place. I think Greenville was ready for it.
Yep.
I think I maybe was the person to do it.
Yeah.
Because I have some marketing background also.
Okay.
It was right place, right time. And my business partner had the funds
Beautiful.
and said, I believe in you. And so I started.
When's the first pop-up?
First pop-up was May or June of 2021.
Okay.
Yes, and that was at GB&D at the Commons.
Yep.
Chef Alex George is really great at bringing other chefs into
Okay.
his
Yep.
kitchen and letting people experiment.
What was that like? What was that first time?
It was really scary.
Yeah.
But we did like a set dinner, and I think those tickets, like, I think it was 40, no, maybe 50, maybe 70 tickets? Oh my gosh. I can't remember how many tickets, but I think it was 70 tickets, and I think we sold out in an hour for that first pop-up. Yeah. And then we started doing pop-ups for a whole year plus, and I tried to do, less complicated food, but more quantity to feed more people, but we
Okay.
would just sell out every time so quick. And it's a great problem to have, but not when you're me, where I want to serve you, I want you to try the food.
Yeah.
But we run out and people have been waiting in line and there's nothing else I can do.
Right.
And it feels heartbreaking. So we signed on the lease of the restaurant, and that whole project took, at least a year and a half.
When I was reading, was this going to be like Flock Shop or something, right? Is it going to
Yeah,
be like
it
a Willy
was.
Taco, the Flock Shop concept thing?
The fried chicken.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you sign I guess when you're doing these pop-ups, they're going so well, the only natural were you thinking about a restaurant at the first pop-up, before the first pop-up? This is like a
Yeah.
test run or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It was like, let's do this restaurant question mark.
Right.
It's let's practice
Yeah.
and see if people buy
It's a really
into
great
it.
way to do it too, like in that kind of, I guess, protection of the commons and the chef bringing you in, and
yeah, exactly.
you know, like.
And I didn't even know about pop-ups because I'm not from like big cities. I guess
Right.
like that whole concept. But Nikki from Tacom, if you've heard of Tacom,
Yep.
the Filipino pop-up, and AJ, who owns Sovereign, the plant store, they said you should do a pop-up. This is a really good way to get your name out there and to
Right.
practice. And because of those three people, AJ, Nikki, and Alex, I think they're the whole reason why we are as successful as we are right now.
Right, okay.
I would have never done pop-ups. I don't even know when marketing would have started.
Yeah.
There's no trust. There's no relationship built with people.
Right.
And no one would have been able to say like, yeah, she's legit. Her
It's
food
great.
is good.
Yeah. It just
Yeah.
been opening this brand new restaurant with no.
Yeah, trust me and trust
me.
my prices. And
Yeah.
yeah, but now it's like, people are like, yeah, I've been following you for 2 years. And I'm like, it's been 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you started what was the tough shit about opening the restaurant that was different from the pop-ups?
I was doing the pop-ups by myself,
Mm-hmm.
and control-wise, yeah, or just manpower,
Yeah.
woman power. That's the major difference. The other thing is restaurants are basically small companies. Like you have all of the departments, but it's just a few people working on.
Like, somebody call HR.
It's me, yeah.
Oh, wait,
and then
hello,
my
it's me?
walkie-talkie
Yeah.
onto my,
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Like operations versus like logistics
Yeah,
versus
yeah. Marketing.
Yeah, exactly. So it can get overwhelming at times, but I am pushing through because I know.
How do you sort through the overwhelm?
you just
still
go.
figuring out right now?
You just go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it gets to a point where like
Make
you don't
more
really have
dumplings?
time to think about it. You just have to do the next
Yeah.
thing. And eventually I'll get to the point where it is running and I've put enough, building blocks into place that it's going well. But
Yes.
right now it's like we're just figuring out what building blocks, like what color, how many, and
Yeah.
until
You don't
then,
quite have the repetition yet to like say that here's a picture of what this is supposed to look like back there, and here's how it's supposed to feel.
Right. And I think people are frustrated because they want to come and they want to try it, but there's so many people, and we want to make sure that the food quality is good and that the service quality is good and that we have enough food so that you don't come and have the menus out. So it's just a numbers
Yeah.
balancing game.
Do you have anybody that is in the restaurant business that have at least kind of passed through this experience that you can like lean
like
on
mentors?
and mentor
Yeah.
to ask about like food costs and like all of that kind of stuff? Like,
Yeah, I definitely do. In this community, everyone's been so amazing. Like this whole place has been built by the community. Like there's not a single part of this that was like, yeah, that was me. Everything has been from the help of friends and family and parts of Greenville and stuff.
Yeah.
So yes, I do have people to talk about those things with, but there's no time right now to really fine tune. Like we should find a supplier for cheaper green onions. Like there's no time for that. It's, do we even have enough dumplings to get through tonight?
right.
So it's that whole like working on the business versus in the business.
Yeah.
So eventually I think we'll be able to
It's hard
have the time.
for me to, even when I probably objectively have the time to zoom out, sometimes it doesn't feel like I have the time to objectively zoom out and think about where's the best place to buy onions, right?
Yep.
But you almost have to force yourself to do that somehow, because if not,
It'll run away from you.
and you're always going to be too busy, right?
You're so right. There's always more daily tasks.
Always. Your
Yeah.
to-do list is never going to be finished. Right? There's never going to come a time where you're like,
What
oh, you know what? I got it all done. Check. Right?
Yeah, that's why people are like, I mean, my husband was like, why don't you make a to-do list? And I'm like, I physically think I would just throw up if I wrote down a to-do list
Yes.
of everything that needed to be done.
Right.
It would be so scary to look
Yeah,
at.
because then there's a lot of things on there like, I want to do, right? Like, I want to do this or I want to do that, right? It's like, even as you offload stuff to people, then you start putting those want to do's on there, and it's almost like you need to have that little set aside hour or whatever it is each day to like reflect and think about
Yeah.
what's the big picture shit I need to do
That's
this
so
week.
important. Mhm.
You're in the weeds right now, right? Because this is
Yeah, we're doing like minimal sleep.
Yeah, this is like
maximum.
Christmas morning or like Christmas
Every
Eve
day.
night, right? You're like, when you're screwing things together, getting things ready for the kids to come downstairs, and now the kids are downstairs, and you're like, I don't know what to do. I can't even make breakfast, right? It's like,
Yep.
I don't know when that stops for you either, because this is not slowing down.
Yeah. It's been like this for like, I mean, we've only been open for 2 full weeks or 2 full service weekends at this
Right.
point. But I'm okay. Well, it's okay. Like, I know there's an end in sight. There's
Yes.
there's
Yeah.
going to be a time where I can sleep and I can
Yeah.
get breakfast with my husband
Yeah.
and like, you know, all these things. But it's okay. It's like, let's invest the time
Yeah.
and energy now. And then we'll have a well-oiled machine
Yes.
in a bit.
There will be a trail that will probably sustain itself for a really long time. I think this town is just so ready for this, obviously, for this new stuff.
Yeah, which is exciting. I mean, that says a lot about Greenville and its people, too.
Yeah.
Because there's some places that might not accept something like this with as open arms. My whole thing is if we were to expand and have more locations, I would never open up in a large city that, you know, already has access to this type of food. It would be more like, you know, does Columbia or Chattanooga have access to authentic Chinese food?
Right.
Or do those people have any female Asian-owned businesses where
Right,
they can
right.
see, yeah, stuff like that.
How much of the day-to-day tasks are you doing, like in the back?
Um,
During service, are you
Oh,
cooking?
well, during service, I'm trying to make sure that everything is flowing. So, like, I'm out here maintaining servers and bartenders and bussers, and then in the kitchen, I'm making sure that everything's plated right and food seems right. So, kind of trying to be the eyes and ears because
Yes.
I'm very adamant about guests having the best experience.
The secret is going to be somehow segmenting off time, and you're like, first off is like office hours, right? Some kind of office hours, right? You know, people that can, and the other time is probably setting aside some time for you to just reflect.
Yeah, exactly.
That's intentional time.
Relax a little
Yeah.
bit, like decompress because
Things like, this is one thing that we've done in my office recently, is that like when something happens or a new thing happens, like onions, for instance, right? When you think about, okay, I need to find a new supplier for onions, or what's the best way to get these things, right? We put that thing on like an issue list, right? So that when the issue comes up during the middle of service, or when you're trying to make dumplings in the afternoon, we don't waste our brain power trying to solve that problem at the moment. We just
we know it's a problem.
we know it's a problem, put it on an issue list, right? Sit it there, and then we'll have a weekly meeting where we actually look at the issue list
Cool.
and work through and try to solve the problem. Then, when it's set aside on the calendar for a specific amount of time, and if we don't get to all the issues, we go to they just get punted to the next week. We don't have like a 5-hour meeting trying to solve that shit, right? So like that's been very helpful.
That sounds nice.
To offload the problem solving when you're in the weeds of other problems, right? You're
Right.
like, you're like, wow, this is, maybe we need a different way to make this sauce,
But
but
it's
not
not
trying to
right
figure out
now.
now, right?
I like that idea of having a set time to address those.
Yes.
Because I'll have my team write down the issues, and I'll get to it.
Right.
I'll get to it. But where does that fall on the list of priorities?
And how do you get everybody together too to like, because you need, some of that stuff is
other
going to
brain
be,
power.
some of
Yeah.
that stuff is, it's a problem because you encountered it while you were making something, right? Or you know that we haven't ordered enough of this or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
like tell me more. How can I make it
Right.
better for you?
They might know their input is valuable on solving that problem, right? And then what we do is we take those issues, and if we find the solution, and the solution is a task, right? Like you need to order your research this week is to go find the best possible place to get the onions, right? And you assign that task, and then the next week you're like, okay, you don't check on it on Thursday, right? Have you done that yet? It's like, that's what we're going to do, and you're going to report back to me and all of us on Tuesday next week and so you take the issue, turn it into a task that everybody can then like work through. It's been astronomically, I mean, like this crazy change in my office.
Yeah, it gives me a lot.
Because then it's not living in my brain all the time, right? Because I'm the one, I was keeping all of that stuff because I could solve the problem, right? And so like whatever it was, I'll solve it. I'd put it on my list, and we'd never get to it, or I would never get to it, right?
'Cause your
and then it's
list
percolating, going,
right.
fuck, I haven't done that yet, right? But when you say, hey, how are we going to do this? We set aside the time to solve the problem, and then assign the task. Even if the task ends up being mine, now we've at least figured out we need to tweak this or change this item on the menu or whatever.
Right.
It's been
You're giving me
amazing.
a lot of ideas. That's good.